going from bad to worse for 45 and anybody who's blowing them. Two of dumbass Rudy Giuliani's associates who helped him on Ukraine charged with campaign finance violations. Two Soviet-born donors to a pro-45 fundraising committee who helped dumbass Rudy Giuliani's efforts to investigate Democrat Joe Biden were arrested late Wednesday on criminal charges of violating campaign finance rules. Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, two Florida businessmen, have been under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan and are expected to appear in federal court in Virginia later on Thursday, the People said. Both men were born in former Soviet republics. Dumbass Rudy Giuliani, 45's private lawyer, identified the two men in May as his clients. Both men have donated to Republican campaigns, including 45's, and in May of 2018 gave $325,000 to the primary pro-45 super PAC, America First Action, through an LLC called Global Energy Producers, according to the Federal Election Commission records. The men were charged with 4 counts, including conspiracy, falsification of records, and lying to the FEC about their political donations. According to the indictment that outlines a conspiracy to funnel Russian donors' money into U.S. elections. The group concealed their work by laundering foreign money into U.S. elections by disguising the true origin of the money, the indictment says. Beginning in about March of 2018, Mr. Parnas and Mr. Fruman began attending fundraising events and making substantial contributions with the purpose of enhancing their influence in political circles and gaining access to politicians, prosecutors wrote. The indictment Thursday alleges that Mr. Fruman intentionally misspelled his name to further evade FEC scrutiny. Fundraising records show that an Igor Fruman, who otherwise matches Mr. Fruman, made additional campaign donations totaling almost $400,000 beginning in March of 2018 that would bring the pair's contributions to about $1 million. John Dowd, who headed 45's legal team until the spring of 2018, and is a lawyer also for the two men, didn't respond to a request for comment. Dumbass Giuliani said he hasn't been contacted by Manhattan federal prosecutors. Attorney General William Barr discussed the case on Thursday with federal prosecutors in Manhattan, where he was making a pre-planned visit. A Justice Department official said Mr. Barr was supportive of their work on the case, on which he was first briefed. Shortly after being confirmed as the Attorney General in February, he was aware the pair would be charged and taken into custody last night, the official said. The Campaign Legal Center, a transparency advocacy group, filed a complaint with the FEC in July of 2018, calling on the commission to investigate whether messengers Parnas and Fruman had violated campaign finance laws by using an LLC to disguise the source of their donations. Parnas and Fruman had dinner with the squatter in early May of 2018, according to a since deleted Facebook post captured in a report published by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. They also met with the squatter's son, Donald Ugly-Ass Jr. later that month at a fundraising breakfast in Beverly Hills, California, along with Tommy Hicks Jr., a close friend of the younger inbred Trump, who at the time was in Beverly Hills, California, along with Tommy Hicks Jr., a close friend of the young inbred, who at the time was heading America First Action. Parnas posted a photo of their breakfast 4 days after his LLC donated to the super PAC. A spokeswoman for the America First Action said the super PAC had placed the contribution in a segregated bank account following the complaint filed with the FEC. The donation has not been used for any purpose, and the funds will remain in a segregated account until these matters are resolved. The spokeswoman said, "We take our legal obligations seriously and scrupulously comply with the law, and any suggestion otherwise is false." Since late 2018, Mr. Fruman and Parnas have introduced dumbass Giuliani to several current and former senior Ukraine prosecutors to discuss the Biden case. Parnas in July accompanied dumbass Giuliani to a breakfast meeting with Kurt Volker, then the U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine negotiations. "We had a strong conversation about Ukraine," Mr. Volker wrote in his testimony to House committees last week. During that breakfast, dumbass Giuliani mentioned the investigations he was pursuing to Biden that he was pursuing into Mr. Biden in 2016 election interference. House committees last month sought documents and depositions from Parnas and Fruman related to their interactions with the 45 administration, dumbass Giuliani, and Ukraine officials. The initial notice from the committee set the dates for their depositions as Thursday and Friday. Mr. Dowd wrote a letter to the House Intelligence Committee last week advising them that he was representing Parnas and Fruman and noting that the two men had assisted Dumbass Giuliani in connection with his representation of 45. He said some of the documents sought by House Democrats last month were protected by attorney-client privilege, and that a privileged review of those documents cannot reasonably be conducted by October 7th, the deadline lawmakers had set. He also criticized the document request as overly broad and unduly burdensome. Parnas and Fruman also worked to oust the ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, whom 45 had removed from her post this spring. In May of 2018, Pete Sessions, at the time a GOP congressman from Texas, sent a letter to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo asking for her removal, saying he had been told Miss Yovanovitch was displaying a bias against the squatter in private conversations. Mr. Sessions told the Journal his letter was in line with a broader concern among members of Congress that the administration wasn't moving swiftly enough to put new ambassadors in place. He declined to say where his information about the ambassador came from, but said he didn't follow up on his letter and didn't hear until months later about 45's interest in replacing her. The indictment references a congressman identifiable as Mr. Sessions, whose assistance Mr. Parnas sought in causing the U.S. government to remove or recall the then U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. The indictment says those efforts were conducted at least in part at the request of one or more Ukrainian government officials. Mr. Sessions didn't respond to a request for comment. Parnas and Fruman told the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project in July that they told Mr. Sessions last year that Miss Yovanovitch was bad-mouthing the squatter. They later donated to his campaign. 45 moved to oust Miss Yovanovitch this spring after Dumbass Giuliani told him that she was undermining him abroad and hindering efforts to investigate Mr. Biden. House committees are seeking Miss Yovanovich's testimony. Excuse me. Now, so now this is showing how corrupt Giuliani really is, along with these people. So yep, that's understandable.